10 whole episodes. Thank you so much to all of the subscribers for the Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube channels and followers on the Instagram and Facebook KC Media's pages. Just thank you so much for being a part of the show, as far as just being listeners and being interactive, and just thank you. I started this show for a few reasons. I wanted to get the journalism degree and put it to good use. Finally use it after 4 years removed from college. I went into University of Oregon for my senior year, and I didn't have that much experience to put on my portfolio reel as my colleagues. So I knew I was putting myself at a little bit of disadvantage for not putting myself more out there. And luckily, technology is really saving me right now with webcams, microphones, all the softwares they have available, because this has been such an instrumental tool for myself to grow as a better listener, a better person to have a conversation with, better person to connect with. This line of work is always about connecting, and this line of work is always about just how you can be in a conversation with someone. In my opinion, obviously, it's going to be different for someone else. But I wanted to get the journalism degree working, and I wanted to talk to those people I know that are doing amazing things with their lives, whether through work or through hobbies, and just get their story out. Just see how they got to where they are today, and see how they got through those obstacles, and see how they were able to grow from those obstacles after they overcome it. And I wanted to also have this podcast be a sort of therapy tool for myself, because I thought for my whole life that I was pretty good at being open, and I was pretty good at communicating, and I was pretty good about listening. But moments in life, they do cause you to reevaluate where you are and reevaluate whether you want to keep progressing to be not a perfect, but just a better version of yourself, or if you just want to stay stagnant or regress. And I don't know who wants to stay stagnant or regress, but that was me for a little bit. But now I want to keep progressing. I want to keep pushing to be a better host of the show for those that are listening and those that are watching, and be a better interview host for those that want to come on the show. And so I want to say a giant thank you without rambling too much. The show would not be a thing, and without all of you guys' support and all of those feedback I get from family, friends, and just very, very much, very grateful to all that. So a little bit of news. July 11th, that is next Saturday, I believe. No episode. Gonna take that time off, maybe just celebrate a little bit and try to recharge the batteries. And July 18th is when I'll be back with another episode. I don't usually give teasers or little snippets or any kind of clue to who my next guest is, but I've worked on this podcast for 10 weeks. I'm always open to change. I'm always open to growth, like I just mentioned. So I thought I'm going to try something different. So next July 18th, July 18th, I got a very special guest. Her name is Chloe Shaughnessy, and I think we have the best story of how we met, and it brings a giant smile to my face whenever time I tell it to people. And Chloe and I considered her best friend. I don't know what she considers me. I hope the same. But throughout college, I saw her as one of my best friends. I was able to talk to her about anything, and we haven't talked as much lately, which is, it's natural because we're both working and we're both living our lives. And she's in California, and I'm up in Oregon, so it'll be good to catch up with her. And I'm very excited to record that conversation and have people hopefully listen in and see how her story can relate to yours. So, she's going to be on the 18th. I'm very excited for that, and it's going to be great. But for today, for this episode, very special 10th episode, I have my good friend Seth Murphy lined up for everyone. I met Seth while at Nike Portland. He was his time there was short. I was at Nike Portland for about, I want to say, 2 years. He was only there for a handful of months just because he knew that it just wasn't the line of work for him, which is totally fine. And when he came into the company, I just remember him being such a wide-eyed, absorbent, and very driven person. He was always talking to every athlete that he could. An athlete is what the Nike people called employees, because in Nike, it's their philosophy is that if you have a body, you are an athlete, and they also wanted to give you that sports realm feel anytime you're in there. So, he talked to every athlete there and just found ways to keep progressing himself as an employee or as an athlete with Nike. So, when he left, it was a little sad. I mean, it's always sad when someone you've spent some time with decides that they want to go on to another path. Which, again, it's still okay because with technology now, we can always text each other or social media message each other. So I kept up with what he's been up to. I knew he went to go work for his dad at a landscaping company, and now he's working with John L. Scott as a realtor, very young realtor. He's 21 years old, and his excited nature was what was very appealing to me. I've kind of started to describe myself as an excited person. So, I think he's going to do really great in this career. And if you need any assistance with real estate or have any questions about real estate, I'll put his info in the description below. But without further ado, whether you are listening to this episode through Spotify or iTunes or watching it on YouTube, I hope you enjoy my chat with Seth Murphy. All right, man. So thank you for taking time out of your day. It's a work week, so I don't usually schedule interviews during the work week because I want to focus on work. But you're a special case. I wanted to make sure that I get time out of my busy schedule to talk with my good friend Seth Murphy, the man of the hour and maybe hour and some change. Sure. How's everything going, man?
It's going absolutely swell. I'm as good as anyone could be in a pandemic.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be deemed an essential worker, so I haven't, been out of work yet. Yeah, I know. It does give you that fluffy, warm feeling to be deemed essential, but also you're like, I kind of want to work from home on some days. Yeah, you see a bunch of people pulling unemployment checks, and you're like, that's just... I know what you do during the day, and that's not essential.
Yeah. Oh, my dad, he got unemployment, and he was like, oh, it's going to be fine because, I want to be at home anyway. I got stuff I could work on. And then It took him like at least maybe 3-4 months until he actually got unemployment. And I was like, why are you okay with this?
Yeah.
This is not okay.
There's no normal. And obviously there hasn't been a global pandemic for, hot minute. So everyone's had to get used to it on the fly.
Yeah. How's your family doing?
Family's doing good. We're all still working. My sister lives in Long Beach, California, and she got COVID I think about a month ago or a month and a half or so, and said it was terrible. And so
how's she feeling now?
Her in California. She's doing great now. Yeah, she's a nurse. She's I'm gonna mess it up. A pediatric heart nurse. She's a pediatric nurse in California. That's great. Awesome. Yeah, my sister's amazing.
Yeah, when it comes to people in the medical field, I feel like their titles are more confusing the more you try to actually say it, the full specific thing. Like if you're just, pediatric, cardiac, she's just in the medical field. We're all good here.
Yeah, I used to spit it out every time, and then she actually just came up here about a week ago, 2 weeks ago or something. And I said it out loud, and she's like, "That's not what I do." And I was like, "Really?" So now I got to be kind of careful.
I know it's like that, and names that are a little more elegant. That even especially with this whole podcasting, I'm like, okay, I want to make sure I say this correctly. I'm like drilling myself, make sure that when it gets to time to talk to someone, I'm like, "Ooh, did I butcher it?"
Yeah.
Oopsies.
Yeah, it's hard to mess up Seth, though. Don't worry about it.
How's your family handling, you in the realtor business and then your sister being in the medical business? Are they as paranoid and worried as mine are?
No. No, like my sister has always done everything. Well, I'm the youngest of 5. So my sister she's 2 years older than me, and she's always done everything at like an escalated scale, right? She skipped 8th grade, I think it was, and then she got a good amount of college credits done in high school, and then she like got to college and busted out college, and I want to say 3 or 4 years, and then she's on to her, and that's like medical, like a nursing school, which is fast. And I was like, holy. And here I am dropping out of school. But no, my parents were all gun ho. She's so smart, and so I mean that, and she's a hard worker. So you can't. I think a lot of people, when I say she's so smart, they're like, oh, so it must have came easy to her. But my sister would get home from school and do homework for like 4 or 5 hours, and I'm like, dude, gosh, I would go insane.
Yeah, that's how my brother and I were. He's about 2 years older, and then he was always the book smart. He's always like could figure out math super easily. When I just struggled, and I could be diligent and work hard, but then when it came to like actually breaking down every single thing, I was like, it's not there.
Yeah,
it's just not there.
Yeah, it's cool. All my siblings are pretty smart. So I'm the youngest of 4, and then we have one adopted sister.
Mm-hmm.
So my oldest sister is 30, and she's married. And then my oldest brother's 27, about to be 28. Mm-hmm. And then my adopted sister's 27. And then my sister that's 2 years older than me, 23, and I'm 21, and the baby. So we all went on different branches of life. None of us do something similar.
Now, what kind of pressure was that for you? You talked about your sister being the book smarts, and then now 3 being the youngest and trying to do your line of business and just trying to, make yourself different from everyone else. You did say that everyone kind of went on their own path, but what was that like for you growing up, knowing that you were, not say bottom of the totem pole, but just the youngest one in the bunch?
Oh, I mean, I think it's awesome. I think being the youngest of a big family is the best setup ever, right? Your parents go through learning experiences through every kid, and like you're just gonna have it the best no matter what. You're the youngest of a big family, I mean, my family's so full of like just communal love. Like everybody just loves on each other. We all love hanging out with each other. I'd explain it as like a warmth, kind of, just what I think of it as. And I don't think I ever felt like any pressure, like for just being the youngest and having to perform. Of course, like you're always trying to like do stuff in a big family to get your parents' attention. And so I would always, put a lot of effort into sports. And then when it came to like playing in a game, I'm always like, man, I'm doing good. Like can't wait to talk to my parents about this, stuff like that. But I mean, I don't really think it hit me until my oldest sister graduated from college. My brother graduated from college. Our adopted sister graduated. And then 3 years ago, my sister that's a nurse now, Kenna, we went to her graduation. And at this point in time, I'm like already phasing myself out of school, and I'm working for my dad. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going back to school. And man, I just saw like the atmosphere of everybody like so proud of her at like graduation. I'm like, man, I should graduate. Like, I want that. Yeah. And then I ended up going back to school and then just being like, I hate it here. And then, I mean, it didn't take me too long. It took me probably 3 months after that. I finished out the term, and I just kind of, started working on what I'm doing now right after that. I was taking 18 credits, I think. I was taking like a biology class. I think it was biology 212. I probably got that wrong. But I didn't take intro to bio, and I got like really, I wouldn't say cocky, but I was like gun ho. I was like, just put me in the next class. I want to get it all done. I ended up taking this biology class that was way too hard for me. I took like an astrology class, macroeconomics, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed like economics, and I took an accounting class, which I kind of enjoyed, but also kind of hated. And then, man, it was like halfway through my biology, not even halfway. I got my biology final. I put it down on my desk. It was 11 pages. I flipped through every single page. I couldn't answer a question. And I just stood up and left. And I was like, I'm not coming back to school next term. And that's how that happened.
Was there a class that you took that you're like, okay, I could see myself, pursuing something in this, pathway? Or was it just like every single one you took were just like, it's just not for me?
Kinda. I mean, like I would just grab like any class that I thought I'd like to just experience. So like I took a couple psychology classes. I loved that. When I went to Portland State, I took a couple business classes, and I was like, these are so fun. Excuse me. And like I'm working with like-minded kids, and a lot of them, I mean, once you get out of business 101, you're usually working around like a lot of entrepreneurial minded people, whether they do their own thing or not. But man, no, once I started like getting into like those core classes where I'm taking like geology and biology, I'm like, never gonna use this ever. I was like, this is wasting my time. And then it just came down to the fact that like something clicked in my head, and I was like, I'm never gonna lose a job to a degree, right? Mm-hmm. Like the guy that I lose a job to is either just gonna be flat out better than me, but like I'm never gonna lose a job to my degree or like lack thereof. And so that's when I was kind of like, all right, I'm out of here.
So you mentioned earlier that all three of your other siblings. So you are the fourth sibling, correct?
I'm the fourth.
You're the fourth. You mentioned earlier that all three of your siblings went through the graduation process, and then you felt motivated. Was there a speech you prepared to tell your parents like, hey, I'm not going back to college? Because, it's great to see their expressions as, their kids are walking across the stage, especially at that grand of event. How did you like build yourself up? How did you psych yourself up to talk to them about this? Because obviously, this is probably something you felt right off the get-go, but you might have to, up a little bit.
It was actually pretty funny. So I was going to Portland State, and it was right when I was quitting Nike, and I'm just at dinner, and I'm like, yeah, I was gonna start working for my dad's company at like Crystal Greens Landscape, and he's like, why don't you just take a couple credits and then slowly phase yourself out of school? Like it was my dad that like pitched it to me, and because my dad went to like a term of college and then dropped out, and I mean he's doing fine, and I think he sees like kind of the same energy in me, so I think he's just like, dude, you're kind of wasting time. But then, like I said, I started going back to school after that because I quit going to I quit working at Crystal Greens, and I was like, man, I need to figure something out. In the best way to buy time is school for me. And then I had to have that whole conversation over again with my parents, and I was like, hey, you guys remember when I stopped going to school that one time? Yeah, I'm gonna do that again. And it all came down to we bought a house that we were gonna flip, and I was just like, I'm gonna work on this, and while I work on this, like once I get home during the day, I'm gonna spend 4 to 5 hours getting my real estate license, studying on that. And so that's kind of how it wasn't like one big grandiose moment of like, hey, I'm dropping out of school now. It was kind of like I have a plan. I'm not going back to school. I didn't really ask or anything. I just kind of told him. My dad's like, are you going back to school in the fall? And I was like, no. He's like, oh, okay.
So no regrets. You never thought back to like, what if I went back, and what if I just did some other courses, or just talked to a different instructor, or talked to a different counselor?
No. I think it really helped that I went to school. I think if I just went on this path, like right out of high school, I think I'd have a lot of like, what if syndrome. But I mean, like I went to college, right? Like I had a year and a half of at college, and I've never once been like, man, I wish I kind of would have gone back, right? I have such a destructive personality trait that I would have just gotten into trouble. And I mean, like, I think college is great for so many people, right? Like finding a path. I think I was just once I quit Nike and started like working for my dad, I was like, this is what I want out of life. And then I had to build my own path on how I got to a place that put me in a position to feel that. And I'm 21 years old, right? So
Yeah.
I don't even know where I want to be in life. I feel good now though.
Yeah, I mean, you found a good direction. I mean, you're starting to make that curve into the whole real estate realtor line of business.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
you mentioned destructive personality. How was that having that personality? Could you remember how you were as a younger kid? Was this something you had since you were young and progressed onwards, or is it something that just kind of happened like teens and such? Because you did grow up in a very small town.
For sure.
I could just imagine you just running around burning stuff and then sprinting off into the distance.
Nah, it's not destructive like that. Like you knew me when we worked at Nike, right? Like I walk around with such a blind confidence. Like just and I mean that's great in a lot of regards. It's got me pretty far in life, but I mean there's been many times where I've, said something wrong that goes right over my head and I've like really hurt someone with how I said it, and I don't know anything about that. So that's more the destructive person. Like if I stayed in school, who knows where I would have ended up, right? Like I would have tied myself to something weird. I don't know.
So using that situation, what kind of things go through your head when you do realize you said something accidental, you didn't mean it, but it hurt someone more than you expected? How did you fix that kind of relationship with that person?
I mean, dude, it happens to me nonstop. Like, okay, it happens to me more often than it happens to a regular person. And usually I go back and I explain to them, I'm like, hey, I'm just a very thick-skulled human when I come to talking. And I still have to learn about, how I affect people emotionally anyways, right? I'm 21 years old, but it happens. And so I usually go back and I'm like, hey, I didn't perceive it the way I said it. I'm so sorry that you took it that way. Next time I'll be a lot more clear. And it's all about like learning people's personality types on the fly, since I'm so like go into the fire anyways. So I mean, like as I'm getting older, I have to, feel out someone's personality type before I get completely settled and comfortable and say certain things. And it's such a balancing act. Everything that I'm doing in my life is such a balancing act right now. And it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that because I would say things too. So like you and I kind of have that same mindset where like either we're just not thinking, or maybe we're just on coast mode, or we're just having too much fun in the moment that we just let something blurt out, and then the person that you're talking to, they like digest it and they're like, oh, I actually didn't like what you said, and you're like, oh crap. So whoops, let me start my 5-part apology to why I didn't really mean that as it is. And
Yeah.
I'm 28. I'm still trying to figure that out too, how to like officially turn on the brain to actually like digest things that people are saying. And it's, we got rough journeys ahead. So
but it's so funny. My oldest sister and my oldest brother, like I've always perceived them as like such a graceful, conversation to have, right? Like each one of them, like you'll start talking and you just know they're listening to you. And like I've never been hurt by something they've just brushed over and said. And it's just one of those things that me and my sister are both very like jump into the flame, start talking. And so there's some sort of disconnect with my older siblings and me and my sister right now, because I could sit down and talk to my brother Tanner, and he'll think about everything I'm saying and calculate his response and spit it back to me, and in a relational way for him, as an older brother way for him. And I'm just always like, me and you attacked that situation very differently.
Yeah. So how do you how would you like to get all your relationships with your siblings to be at that same level as your, I guess, 2 year older sister?
Yeah.
Is that the one? Yeah. What would be your strategy to try and repair that relationship? Because my brother and I, we lived together, and our relationship coming into this apartment was a little rocky. I had an ex-girlfriend that was not really his favorite. So,
Yeah.
trying to repair that, I still think I'm repairing that to this day. And sometimes I don't even know how to do that.
Sure.
What would you think is the best step for you to try and get all your relationships to that top level?
Man, I mean, I honestly think the most beautiful part about my family is all of our relationships are at that top level. Like I've never had one, and that could just be my disconnect of being like the youngest of everybody, right? Like by the time I was conscious, like fully conscious, and was like, I'm an actual person. My oldest sister was already in college and moved away, um, and then me and my brother, I mean, we would hang out every now and then, but I'd give him his space, and he went to college, and so that's something cool. Is only ever time like the only time I would like burn a relationship is, with my sister that's closest to me, because we're so bullheaded that we just smack into each other every now and then, and we just kind of, say our apologies and then move on. And yeah, I don't think I've ever had a situation where I've been walking on eggshells with any of my siblings, to be honest.
That's awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. There's just that connection just runs deeper than any other conflicts that can arise.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we're all, I mean, obviously the youngest of all of us is 21. So each of us have been through our fair share of life. And I think it becomes really hard when you get in a big family and you're like very sheltered and you don't get to experience like individual lives. You're just experiencing it all as your family. That's when I think you have, inner family conflict, is when you're going through every stage of life together. Me and my siblings have all had hundreds of thousands of our own experiences, and then we kind of just come together and just kind of share it, and it's super cool.
Yeah. So then, did they all of them go through Damascus Christian High School as well, or was it just you?
Damascus is K through 12.
Okay.
So everybody went through K through 12 except my sister. That's a little bit older than me. She skipped 8th grade there and then transferred to LaSalle Prep College. It's in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And she just wasn't having it at Damascus, so she left.
No, what was her reasoning for not having it at Damascus? Because religion schools, I mean, as someone that never went to one, I could see how that could be a whole lot.
Yeah, like I said, she's just a strong-headed personality, and so her and a couple teachers would clash. And if you're an insecure teacher and you have someone with a strong-headed personality, you're going to try and put a little more, authority in your day, and every now and then you'll overreach. I mean, I almost left Damascus countless times because of that, and I'm just like, you guys aren't even here to teach us. You're just here to, milk some authority complex you have in life. And, So I think that was a huge reason. And then LaSalle, is a prep college, so it gets to pushing you a little harder, and I think that's what my sister needed too. So.
Yeah. So again, going back to the whole religion school, are you a religious person, or like how was it jumping into that kind of environment where it is preached fairly strongly? And how did you like kind of differentiate the Bible aspect of the teaching, or just straight up regular school teaching like math, language?
Oh, no. I mean, Damascus does a really good job. You take one Bible class every year, and then the rest of your classes are like, you're in math class, you're doing math. They're never like 10 of Noah's arks plus 11 of the commandments, which there are only 10 commandments, just in case anybody's going to fact check me. But it was never like that. It was just kind of, and English wasn't ever like, read this section of the Bible. And it was always like, folk tales and like write an essay on whatever stuff like that. It never, education and religion were definitely two separate things there, and every teacher just kind of wanted to affect you as good as they can. But no, it was, I mean, I know exactly what you're referring to, and like you get religion in every single class and it kind of makes it hard for you to learn, but I never experienced that.
Yeah. So when you see that on TV, so let's say The Simpsons is doing something like that, now does that discourage you, or you just kind of laugh at it?
Not at all, man. I mean, I'm pretty good at, a lot of things that you see, like The Simpsons, Family Guy, you're like, gosh, that is crossing a pretty good line of blasphemy. But it's never gonna, like, I can understand comedy, and I can understand like a lot of people get burned through a religious system, whether it's Christianity or anything. And you just kind of gotta you gotta be like, that's unfortunate that they saw that side of what it is. And I'm never going to be like, I'm not watching this anymore or anything like that. But I mean, you can understand it if you have any level of empathy.
Yeah. And would you say that trying to create empathy, What would you say, actually, not to put words into your mouth, but what would you say is something you learned out of that experience that you still have with you to this day and maybe you carry with you into your realtor career?
Yeah, probably empathy, right? Especially being a real estate agent, to drag it away from that is, everybody, you're working with everybody on the biggest purchase of, most likely their biggest purchase of their life. And you deal with some stressed out people. In like my first couple months in real estate, I'm like, chill out. Oh my gosh. I'm like, I'm doing everything. But dude, like people are spending 200K plus on a house. And they're like, I'm getting calls every 10 minutes. And I'm just like, no, don't worry. I'm handling that. So I think empathy is the biggest thing that I'm continually learning to this day. And it goes back to me being such a, I'll say something and it'll hurt someone's feelings. And I'm just like, I used to be like, how did that hurt your feelings?
Yeah.
To now I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to know why that hurt your feelings so I don't do that again.
Oh, that's growing up, buddy. We're doing it.
Oh, for sure.
There you go.
So yeah, that's probably, empathy is what I took away from it. Because everybody, at the end of the day, I had a lot of people around me in school that would, come to school just wrecked, like tired or freaking in a bad mood. And I'm just always like, come to school, like, what, dude? Come happy. And then I was like, I don't know what they're doing at home or what's going on. And so you learn it as you go, but a lot of people don't even consider it.
Yeah. And, there are those situations where, like, let's say you're at a restaurant and then one woman's yelling at the waitress and, from the outside, perspective, like, wow, that woman's going really extreme over her food.
Yeah.
But then you gotta have like empathy, like, oh, maybe she's just having a really bad day, and maybe this was just kind of last straw. Maybe she's not usually like this.
I don't know. That's where I draw the line. After we worked at Nike, I'm like, dude, I am literally here to give you shoes. You cannot yell at me. Like,
yeah.
Whenever I see anybody in the service industry getting treated poorly for not deserving it, I'll preface that, for not deserving it. That's what I do. I will never even consider empathy. I'm like, dude, if you have something wrong with you, detach yourself from the situation of yelling at a 16-year-old boy trying to bring you breadsticks.
Now, what was it like for you working for Nike? Because I know for me, I grew up with the swoosh, on my football jersey. I grew up with the swoosh everywhere. I thought of it as like, cool, I get to work for the hometown company. And I loved it, but then the backside of it all was just like not the greatest, just because of the restraints and whatnot. What did it mean for you to, represent the swoosh?
Oh man, it was awesome, right? I don't know if I ever told you the story of how I ended up there, but when I was 14 years old, I think 14 or 15, I went to a Blazer game with my dad, and like me and my dad's friend switched spots. So I sat in like a spot that I never sat, and I was sitting right next to Adam Chang.
Really?
And I didn't know him, and he was wearing Jordan 3s, I want to say, Black Cement 3s, I think. And I was like, those are sweet shoes. And he's like, thanks, man. I was like, I love Nike. And he's like, oh, really? I work for Nike. And I was like, you work, like, he instantly became like a god in my eyes. I was like, you work for Nike? I'm 14. And I was like, man, that's awesome. He's like, yeah. And then we just talked the whole night. I felt really bad. I wasn't talking to my friend that I was with at all. I was talking to Adam this whole time. I was probably bugging him so bad too. And then we exchanged contact information. And dude, I texted Adam every single summer once I turned 16. I was like, hey man, can I get a job? He's like, are you 18 yet? I was like, no. He's like, no. Next summer, hey man, can I get a job at Nike? He's like, are you 18 yet? I was like, no. He's like, no. I turned 18. I'm about to graduate. I was like, hey man, can I get a job at Nike? He's like, we're starting a hiring process next month. Just drop me your application. I'll put it on my manager's desk, which was CJ at the time. I think he put it at CJ's desk. And I was like, okay. And then he calls me back. He's like, okay, we're doing a 70-person interview process. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of people. And he's like, yeah, they're choosing 5. And I was like, I'll show up. But
yeah,
I walk in there, man, and there was a football player for Florida State was there. He was 7 feet tall, and I was like, that guy looks like he should work at Nike. And then I walked in with Tommy Shibanashu,
Mhm.
And I didn't know him at all. And he was being super shady. And I was like, dude, why are you being so weird? I later find out that he already worked at Nike. And I was like, oh, that's unfair, right? Man, I get into that. They break you off in groups of 5. I mean, you know how they do it. And they start asking you a bunch of questions. And I'm the only one in my group wearing a full suit. Everyone's wearing a flannel, a t-shirt, like Nikes. I'm wearing a full suit and dress shoes. And there's no way in hell I'm getting this job. And so, I mean, I'm sitting there and I was getting interviewed by CJ, who's a big, for anybody that doesn't know CJ, he's a big Australian dude and very intimidating if you don't know him.
Once you get to know him, he's the kindest man. He is
Yeah,
the gentlest man.
dude, best guy ever. But dude, I was sitting there freaked out. And I got a call like 10 days later. They waited a long time to call me. And it was Mike on the phone, and he goes, hey, what's your sizes? And I was like, my sizes for what? And he didn't preface at all who he was. And he's like, oh, this is Mike from Nike Portland. And did CJ call you? And I was like, no. He's like, oh, well, you start on Monday. And I was still in high school at the time, and I answered that phone because, like, when Nike calls you, it says Nike Incorporated on your phone. And I ran to, like, my school is very strict on phones, and I ran to my bathroom. I'm like, in a stall. I'm like, hello. And so, I mean, it was so cool. And I get to work, and I mean, you trained me. You were there my first day, and I'm just freaking a puppy. Yeah. And I'm just like, this is awesome. And you feel so good being at Nike, and you're around a bunch of cool people. And, you know, everybody that worked there was so unique, and I got to meet the coolest people ever. And it was awesome, man. It was a great feeling. And I mean, I'm sure it happened to you too. After few months, you lose that honeymoon stage of working for Nike, and you're like, this is a crappy retail job, you know?
Yeah, it was I believe once I worked the first Black Friday, that's when I was like, whoa, this is horrible, but you know, I'm representing the swoosh, so I'm gonna put my full effort into this. And
yeah, and I mean, like, I owe a lot of who I am today just to working at Nike, right? Like, just the people I got to work with, and you know, work ethic that I see people like Jacob Abrego put in, and like Noah put in. And you're just like, these people are, you know, so driven by this clothing company, something that's way more than a clothing company, but you're like, this is so cool. And then I realized, I was like, I don't have that passion for Nike like they do. Mm-hmm. I'm not meant for this. And so I put in my 2 weeks, and I said bye to everybody, and I was like, oh. But it was cool, man. I got to meet like MKC. You got to meet Matt Kelstrom-Cho, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, treats everybody equally. Jason Damien, to this day, is the most loving human to any stranger ever. Jason Damien is the perfect example of what just like brotherly love feels like.
Yeah.
For meeting someone that you don't know at all.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
When I first started working there, I didn't know him at all. It was like his first shift, it was my first shift too. I'm just watching him work with a customer, and I was like, dude, I want to be like that dude when I work with customers. He just made someone feel so comfortable. I was like, that's the guy.
Yeah.
So every time Jason was on the same floor as me, I'd just pick his brain.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do in your free time? And he's a singer, and he's a great singer, and he's a great musician, and he's just a great guy. You get to meet so many cool people.
Yeah, and people have like so many great hobbies outside of just Nike. You know, you mentioned Jason, and I'm trying to get him on as a guest on the show also. And you know, Jacob, the things people were doing to continue their Nike career and how much work they put in was so admirable. But yeah, again, I was just like, it's not for me. I was right there with you. I was like, if this was a different pathway, like if I had the same drive as, let's say, Adam Chang, yeah, I would grind it out day in and day out and not think otherwise. But I was like, I needed more. I completely agree with you also that like you met amazing people, and it did improve improve my work ethic. Just seeing so many other people like, you know, Janelle and all them, just seeing how they operated.
Yeah.
It's like, whew, man.
Yeah, I'll never regret working at Nike, which is, people are always like, why would you even say that? Nobody would ever regret working at Nike. And you're like, I don't know, man. But it was just, it's one of those things that, yeah, if you take Nike out of the equation, the job sets you up to meet just wonderful people and just be a part of something cool, like work in Dornbecker events and just any charity event we did. And I was like, this is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the equality, when that first got rolled out, I was just like, that got me hooked. And then to be true, and Dornbecker as well. Did you ever help any celebrities? And then how did you contain that starstruckness?
I was actually just talking about this the other day. Devin Booker, when Devin Booker and Marquise Chris came in, I was upstairs in what is now men's running, but it was Nike basketball at the time. And they walked up the stairs and I'm like stocking, like fixing shoes. And he goes, hey man, he hands me like a Kobe. He's like, I need this one. And I was like, oh man, I'll grab that for you a second. And I didn't look at him whatsoever. I had no clue who it was. And I go in the back and Mike takes the shoe from me. He goes, I'll take care of this. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I didn't think, and I walk outside and it's Devin Booker sitting on the bench. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, it's probably good that I didn't look up and see him because I would have freaked out. And I walked over there. I like collected myself. I was like, hey man, I just want to say like, you are my age and I am a huge fan of you. And he was really, I mean, Devin Booker's down to earth and he dapped me up and we talked for a second. And then Mike came out and fitted him up. And Mike kind of like gave me a look. He's like, all right, you're done for now. I'm like, I'm out of here. But I got to meet, I think he was the coolest guy. When Kobe came in, that was huge. He went downstairs and I went downstairs for my break, but I kind of just went down to be around Kobe.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and he looked at me and he goes, you got a name? And I was like, nope, not right now. He shook my hand and then I walked away. And I was like, I should have they were in like a half circle talking.
Yeah.
And I was like, I did not belong there. And I was like, just shaking Kobe's hand was cool. I'm gonna walk away.
How'd you feel about his passing?
Dude, it tore me up. It's just tough, especially when you grow up in basketball and you're a competitor and you love, like when you have a killer mentality about anything, when it comes to work, when it comes to sports, when it comes to anything, Kobe was an icon for just hard work and passion. And dude, it was just, it sucked, right? And like seeing how it affected so many young players in the league, and you're just like, that sucks, right? Like such a big impact and how he was affecting women's basketball. And it was tough. I was working too when it happened. And like in the middle of working, and I got the text, and I was like, I should go home. And it's crazy how someone that like is like that, take away me even shaking his hand once in my lifetime, like I would have been equally torn up. And we never met him, and that's just how big his impact on anybody was. It was crazy. I texted all my basketball team, and everybody was like, this sucks. And
yeah.
It was terrible.
And then did you watch The Last Dance?
I didn't. I still haven't watched it. I've been meaning to watch it with my friend, but my friend lives in Corvallis, so I'm just waiting for a good time.
Yeah, so I did not know much about basketball. I knew Jordan was a big thing, obviously from our time at Nike together. True. Jordan has his own brand. Yeah. And I never watched any of his games. I never understood what the big craze was. I just knew he was an icon.
Yeah.
So when I watched that documentary and just see his mentality of like competitiveness and just his drive, and I could see now why he was so successful, and I could see now why he was so inspirational, and I can see how, some of the traits that he possessed was probably in Kobe's play and also inspired so many generations. And that's just insane that, this guy from North Carolina can come in to an organization, drive and push every single person, whether they liked it or not, to be better. It is inspiring. I get it. But at first, when I was like growing up, I was like, I guess it's a basketball player. I don't know much about him. So now, when it comes to sports, competitiveness, drive, now, are you still playing? Is some of those traits still lingering into your work ethic, or is this just a whole different animal when it comes to like realtor or just any kind of work you've done since?
Oh no, 100%. We have a city league team. It's like me and a bunch of guys I used to play with in high school. And man, that's the most fun I have playing basketball, right? I had so much fun playing basketball, and we went to a state championship, and it was fun being there and having a bunch of people root for you. But if you can get out of your head and like just play a sport because you love the sport, like I have one friend who's just like, yeah, city league's fun, but it's more fun when people are watching you. And I'm like, dude, I'm just having fun playing, like I just want to win. Or like same thing with like Jordan Kobe, and it leaks into freaking work. I just hate losing. I hate losing. Right? Everybody says it. You hate losing more than you like winning, and man, that's been how it is my whole life. So it's definitely affected me in work, and like being a young real estate agent, you lose a lot more than an old real estate agent, and I can be on top of it 10 times more than the next guy who's 40 years old, and I can know everything and equally match him, if not exceed him, and communication and charisma. But dude, 7 times out of 10, I'm going to lose a listing because of my age and how I look, because of, that guy's 40 years old.
Yeah. But you got your first win, I believe, was it October 24th, 2019?
Yeah, something right around there is when I closed on my first deal, and I close on my 6th tomorrow morning.
How'd that first one feel?
Oh man, it felt great, right? That one felt good, but I was also with a mentor at the time, so she helped me out with a lot of my paperwork. It wasn't until my 3rd deal, I did everything by myself. All the paperwork, I wrote up the contract by myself, I listed it by myself, and that was the one. I got the call, and they're like, yeah, we're going to use you. Man, I get off the phone, I'm holding myself like very, very elite. I'm like, I'm looking forward to working with you. I'll send you over that paperwork in an hour. And I hang up. I make sure I hung up. And man, I let out the biggest just scream in my car. I'm like, yeah, dude, it was nuts. It felt great. Because that's a big deal, right? The more, like I have 6 down right now. The average for realtors in a year, I think it's 4.5 deals. And I've been in it for 10 months. But like I can show somebody that number and they're still like, yeah, you're still 21. So man, I just need to do everything I can so that I can put like a piece of paper in front of a seller's face, and they can't be like, well, you're 21. And I'll be like, look at that, look at what I've done already. Gosh. But it felt crazy. My first deal felt good, but my first deal by myself felt crazy. I was like, man, I can do this. And just like last week, I had a deal sadly fall apart, but I'm on and off the phone with my clients, another agent. We're putting an offer together, and like halfway through, like I hang up a phone call. I'm about to call somebody else again, and I'm just like, dude, I'm doing this at such an elite level right now. Like I'm killing it. I'm making sure all my bases are covered. It's a different feeling, right? Performing at such a high level and such a and what's considered an old man's game. Feels good.
Yeah. So you mentioned a deal fell apart, and then people rejecting you just because of your age. How do you fight through that kind of roadblocks, adversity that gets thrown at you for things you're out of your control? And who do you go to try to help get yourself back together, kind of pep yourself up?
I don't think I deal with it in a very focal way, if that's the right word, I guess. Like I really focus on like any sort of way that could have been different, right? Like I lost the deal. I got turned down for my age. I think it was about a month and a half ago now. And I go in the interview. I'm killing it with the seller. She's loving me. I bring out, like, I priced their house correctly. It just sold yesterday, actually. Fun fact, not through me, but it sold for the price I priced it at. Yeah. So that felt pretty good. And so I'm just like, I got a call from them. They're like, hey, we're going to go with someone else who sold around our house. And by the way, I live close to this house too. And I'm like, I know this area. I checked the house they were referencing, and it's like 10, 15 minutes away for a completely different price point. And I'm like, you could have just told me it was because I was too young.
You don't have to sugarcoat it.
Yeah. I mean, you talk to some realtors who are in it and they're like, you can't let that affect you. You just got to move on. And no, you gotta let that stuff affect you. If you let that roll off your back, how is the next one going to be any different?
Yeah. It's like, you got to take the scrapes, you got to take the bumps, because Now then you become stronger. You know how to avoid getting those bumps or knowing how to handle those
Yeah. And
situations instead
so,
of
I
just be
mean,
going in blind.
yeah, it's any adversity I like to take, what could I have done different to keep it together? What am I doing next time? The deal falling apart a couple days ago, that doesn't really affect me at all. Because I retain the clients. It's a buyer of mine. So I still am going to help them buy a different house. And that just wasn't the house we ended up going with because it fell apart obviously. So that doesn't affect me too bad.
Yeah. Now, have you developed any kind of special relationship with your clients, or have you? I don't know. Is repeat clients, is that a good? Does that apply to your industry or?
Oh yeah. A lot less because people hold on to houses on a
Mhm.
7-year average. So like a repeat client, you just kind of got to stay in their head. Um, but it's definitely a lot less than shoe sales. I'll tell you that. Um, but yeah, once you help someone buy a house, you're usually not helping them. After that, you're working off referrals, right? So if I settle with a client, like the next kind of deal I'll do through them is hopefully through a referral, right? They'll tell their friend about me or their family member and stuff like that, which is kind of happening with the clients I'm working with right now. Is their son in a year is looking to buy a house, and so hopefully, my name.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go, man. Now I see John L. Scott. That's the branch you work at.
Mm.
I see that they have a location down the street from my work in Lake Oswego. I see them in Beaverton. When I did a little research into them, I did not know they had 110 locations, like over that much.
Yeah.
So what did it mean to you to go into that giant industry and work with John L. Scott and someone that has that many locations and also be very Pacific Northwest Central?
Yeah. Um, it's great, man, because there's two things you got to do when you're young or a new real estate agent, and that's know everything that you can do and put a reputable name behind you. Um, John L. Scott offers a lot of coaching opportunities, and if you're in the real estate, you know, spectrum, the name, and so it kind of just helps to have that magnitude of pure numbers behind me that I can, if someone's not comfortable with me being so young, hey, I have this huge brokerage behind me that's going to back every piece of paperwork I put in front of you. They market for me to the RMLS, to Facebook, to Google Ads. They do that for me. Everything gets through them, right? Nothing's going to slip. Whereas like if I go to a mom and pop brokerage, right, I'm in charge of all that. So it's a huge deal getting to a brokerage that has, weight to its name.
Yeah. And you are currently located in Happy Valley, Oregon. And, you grew up in Eagle Creek and you went to school in Damascus, all still relatively close to Happy Valley.
Yeah, within 20 minutes.
Yeah. Like, was that something you were planning? Were you okay with that? Do you wish you were kind of located somewhere a little further from home, or are you just, and what is the benefits of being a realtor with John L. Scott in Happy Valley near where your childhood was developed? Like, are you like, oh, I know this neighborhood like the back of my hand? Or are you still trying to figure the whole neighborhood out?
Man, yeah, geographically, I still got so much to figure out, but I'm in such a good spot of where I grew up around it, right? I've been in and out of most of these nooks, but I can sell anywhere in Oregon legally. But it's just so nice being in Happy Valley. My office is 5 minutes away from my house. It's a clean city. There's everything around it. I can meet clients. Like if someone gives me a call, the odds of them being 15 to 30 minutes away from me are pretty high. Mm-hmm. It's just nice being in that central of a location of people that know me too, right? Like my high school friends, like people I used to play basketball with at Clackamas, stuff like that. Just people tied around me. If they see my name on a sign, they're like, is that like Seth Murphy? Seth Murphy?
Yeah.
Because I don't put my picture on stuff because I'm young.
You have to earn that.
Yeah. I just don't want someone getting my card off a referral and being like, oh, that's a young guy. No, we don't want to work with him.
So how much of that marketing kind of maneuverability have you started to develop because of your age when it comes to, having your business cards and signs?
Yeah, man, I don't put my picture on anything. It's just like an incessant worry that someone is just going to be deterred. And I need to get rid of it, but also like it's a very real thing. Whether you like it or not, real estate is a very, judgy industry, right? You know, what car you drive, what are you dressed in, what do you look like, how old are you, stuff like that. That's all going to affect like a good amount of people. But there's also there's a good amount of people that don't care about any of that. They're just like, can you sell my house for the price I want it? But that's also, trust is very based on the eyes. And so you got to make people feel comfortable with how you look, how you are, how you speak.
Yeah. And how do you deal with those kind of pressures when, you know, you want to live up to someone else's expectations, and how do you kind of work through that and just working with what you got instead of trying to always reach for more where you can't really reach anymore?
Oh man, fake it till you make it, right? Dude, I talk such big game. I got such a good ecosphere around me anyways. My dad built a business up from ground zero. My mom is, you know, building her business. You know, my dad, I've been a little carbon copy of my dad since I can remember. And I've been, you know, every time he's talking to people, I'm always like looking at him, writing mental notes, and how do I put this to what I'm doing? And whether that was in high school, like when I was, you know, playing basketball, and how I would talk to my teammates, and now in real estate, I'm like, he said that, I need to say this to my clients and do this. And, you know, but dude, when I go to talk to clients that I don't know at all, like it's my first time talking to them, they have no clue that I have no clue. You know, they think I know because I'm pretty confident in what I know. And I think I know a lot when it comes down to real estate, but they think I know everything. And so I have to keep that little game playing in their head. And I mean, if they're like, can you sell my, you know, $30 million house, and the most expensive house I've sold is $435,000, I can be like, I can sell that tomorrow. And then I'll have 24 hours to figure out how to sell a $30 million house. But that's, I mean, like, because you're gonna lose business if you can't hold yourself to that. If you look nervous, people can tell when you're nervous, right?
Yeah.
I was so nervous working at Nike when certain people would come up to me. I was like, I don't know anything about this shoe. And people can tell, and they're like, is there anybody that can talk about it? And so
yeah,
now I'm just like, dude, you need anything from me. If I don't know how to do it, I can learn fast, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's the advice I gave. I think maybe I gave that to you, or just gave to any other person that I was helping, you know, learn the system of Nike. It's just like, if you don't know, read, B, talk to people, and see if still some things fall through the cracks where you still don't know. Just fake it. Just be like, yeah, this shoe is good because it can help bounce you up because of the thingies and the thingies and the thingies.
Yeah.
It's just the thingies. So how we're in a pandemic. We started the conversation talking about the pandemic. How have you been able to conduct business with this pandemic, as far as like house showings and sales and contacts with people?
House showings remained pretty normal. They took a pretty big dip, but we're about back to normal now. Open houses stopped completely, which is like a huge source of networking for new agents. That sucked for me. I loved doing open houses and meeting people there. That's how I got my one of my deals that I just got finished, is I didn't know this person at all. I met him at an open house. I was like, dude, and like open houses shut down right when I started getting comfortable talking to people. And I was pretty mad, and I can't wait for them to be back because I just enjoy them so much. Just people coming through, and I love real estate, and I love talking about it, and I love meeting new people. And yeah, that's the only way COVID affected me so far, is taking away open houses. I'm still able to show houses, and people still have Zillow on their phone, and I mean, I've still closed something.
Yeah.
So it hasn't affected me in any other way besides, you know, meeting people face to face, which is the best way for real estate. Like, everybody's going to get an ad for a realtor. Everybody's going to get cold calls from realtors. But if I can get face to face with people, I'm saying 7 out of 10 times I can convince them that I'm the one.
There you go, baby. And now, when it comes to, you know, we're on Zoom right now, Skype, FaceTime, all the other webcam interface programs, softwares. Have you been using that to talk and stay connected with those maybe clients you've already had established something with?
Yeah. So every now and then, I'll go to like certain property types, and I'll take either a video if they can't FaceTime at the moment, or I'll FaceTime them and walk them through a house if they're not comfortable meeting me there. But I show up, put a mask on, and walk through. Right? I've never been like, oh, I don't want to be here. But yeah, I really utilize just the phone, right? Yep. Just FaceTime, like you said, Zoom. I do Zoom calls. We do all of our brokerage meetings over a Zoom call every week, stuff like that. Yeah, it's been nice, but I don't think my business depends on it for COVID.
Yeah. And I get the sense from you that you're like a tiger in a cage right now, and you want to just, not really, because it might be a little bit of a bad imagery, but you want to just get back out there, and you're eager and you're ready to start meeting people, start seeing them face to face.
Yeah,
that's very encouraging. Yeah. It's very inspiring, because it's a lot of people are a little afraid of. People are going to be afraid coming out of this whole thing of human contact, but in your line of business, you have to just do what's best for the person. Do
oh yeah, that's where empathy comes back in, right? You just got to make everybody feel as safe as they want to feel, right? Oh, you don't want to shake my hand? Don't shake my hand. You don't want to be within 6 feet of me while we're walking through this, very tiny house together. Walk through by yourself. I'll be outside, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You got to make adjustments on the fly, and everybody is so different. So there's just nothing. There's not going to be a new normal for the next year or so.
No. I miss high fives so much.
I just miss being out, right? Yeah. That's like, I just want to be able to talk to people without them being like, you're getting a little close. Okay, sorry, I'm just gonna leave now.
So my last question. You've held some titles in your day. You were a student at school, like grade school. You're a student at PSU for a little bit. You're an athlete. You're a sales manager, and you're a son, and now you're a realtor. What does that kind of title mean to you versus maybe not just son, but what does that title mean to you when compared to student, an athlete at Nike, or a student at college?
Yeah, I think it just means, in the sense of a very broad meaning, I just think it means more responsibility, right? I get to affect someone's life at a greater level than I could getting them a nice pair of Pegasus, It's really awesome being able to like close on a house with a family and just seeing how excited they are. They don't even think twice about the real estate agent that helped them out, right? They close on the house, they move in, and they probably won't think about me ever again. But like for me, I'm like, that was sweet. I did that for them. So I think it means a lot, because you get to affect people in such a positive way, and buying a house can either be a really stressful process, or it can be pretty fun, in my opinion, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I found this house. Let's send it to Seth and let's go see it. And I'm like, I'm so eager to look at any houses. You can send me a house at 7 p.m. and they're like, can we see this tomorrow? I'm like, let's go see it now. I love my job, man. And it's rare that you'll find, a young kid as passionate about real estate as me, in my opinion, right? Like I haven't found many, but like, the reason I got into it is I love real estate and I love helping people out. And this is the perfect job if you like that.
I think that's the best way to wrap that up, man. So yeah, I think just from knowing you, from your young Nike days and hearing about your story now, it's like, this is a line of work, a career that I think you found your path, that, school didn't work out for you, but you found something else that can supplement that kind of strive that some people have towards knowledge, by helping people achieve their dream and, achieve what they're looking for, and hopefully get people going on the right path towards a lifetime filled with moments and memories, because you helped them out.
That's what it's about, right? The Disney feeling inside.
Oh, God bless you, Disney.
God bless you, Disney.
Seth, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me. And, when this is all over, since you are officially a 21er, we'll go hit up the bar and we'll, go talk to those people that we both love to do.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, Keoni. I look forward to that.
Do you have any follow-up questions for the guest? Put them in the comments below, and I will work to get them answered for you. For more content from KC Media, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And for more interviews from Keoni Chats, please follow us on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Until then, guys, see you then.